Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, Anita Finley.
Arlene Herson is a television host and producer, and she's been a friend. And welcome to our show, Arlene.
I am delighted to be here this morning.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you here. This is great because we've never done this together, which is great.
No time like the present.
No, so, you have done so much in the field of communications for so long.
I have been very lucky.
Well, it isn't just luck. You have to be talented, but maybe you were in the right place at the right time when you started.
Do you know, that's so interesting to say because that's so true. As I say, have been lucky, but you're right. A lot of things happen by chance and being able to take advantage of an opportunity of being in the right place at the right time. I mean, I don't know, I've had a talk show on cable television. I would like to say award-winning, nationally syndicated cable television show, interviewing people on location like Tony Bennett, Placido Domingo, Jose Ferrer, the people who are no longer with us like Sammy Davis Jr., Liberace, and Pearl Bailey. I mean, major people. Who thought I would do something like this? I mean, I didn't plan it.
You worked your way up to it.
It happened by accident, or by chance, or being in the right place at the right time. I had been working for a newspaper, and I was selling advertising space and writing a column, a social column. I had never sold anything in my life before. I never thought I was a writer. And here I was, selling advertising space, writing a column. It was called The Social Scene by Arlene.
Oh, perfect.
In any event, I did that for 4 years. The paper changed hands, and I thought, okay, what am I going to do now? I had moved from Manhattan to New Jersey to a suburb. I am not a suburban lady. Not that there's anything wrong. I bought a station wagon. Remember station wagons in those days? I learned to play tennis. I became a charity lady. I was having a good time. Except I realized for me, it wasn't such a great time. I needed to do more. I went to an employment agency and said, help, and wound up getting this job selling advertising space and then ultimately writing a column. So now, what am I going to do? I was at a cocktail party. The mayor of our local town was there. Cable television was just starting. Now, I'm talking 1978. So, cable's just starting. And the mayor said to me, why don't we do a show together? We'll call it the Joe and Arlene Show, and we'll interview people, and we'll have a good time. But he was running for office again. And his wife said, he can't do this. It was June, and he couldn't do anything. Why don't you? I thought, oh, my goodness, why don't I? I went down to the local cable television station and said, I had a list of 20 people I want to interview and why. And they said, great, we would love to have you on the show, but you have to pay us for the radio, for the TV time. You have to pay us for all of, the airtime, the tape. I said, okay, wait 1 minute. Now, remember, I had sold advertising space. So I went to my advertisers who bought print advertising and sold them commercials on my new television show.
You're such a ballsy woman. I love it.
But next thing you know, I have a television show.
I love it.
No,
but you had to be talented. Arlene, it's one thing to have all these good ideas and even have the money with the advertisers, but if you're not talented and people, you have a certain charisma that you bring. If you didn't have that, it wouldn't have worked.
Well, that's interesting. Yes and no. Because I never thought I would do anything like this before. It does, talking to people comes natural to me. Being interested in people comes natural to me. So whether it's a talent or it's a God-given gift, which is it?
It's an energy you have. It's always been obvious that. I mean, even when I had dinner with you, Bill and I had dinner the other night, people are just attracted to you. They just gravitate to you. And so that's something that you did with STARS. And it's funny, I've had from time to time people who are, fairly prominent, and they really need to be made comfortable and that's what you do. And hopefully that's what I do. It is a talent.
That is very important because I do a lot of homework. beforehand because I interview major celebrities, people who have been interviewed. I want to make sure that instantly they feel comfortable. Now, after being on television for such a long time, I'm still, by the way, on television in reruns in Manhattan. So if you go to New York City and you turn on Channel 56 at 8 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday mornings, you will see the Arlene Herson Show. I was in New York recently. I turned on the TV, and there I was interviewing Mel Torme. I watched the whole show.
Do you get paid for reruns? I hope you do.
I do not.
Too bad you didn't have a good enough agent.
But I've never had an agent. I've done it myself. But I'll tell you why I run it and why I don't get paid for that. Because of the fact that I don't want to. I have treasures, interesting stories about people. What I do is I interview these people from a personal point of view. I don't talk about what show they're doing now, or I talk about what's important in their life. So it can be run over and over and over again. It doesn't matter because it's interesting to learn about them. But why would I have all of these treasures sitting in a drawer in my office? I also have a store on eBay. I sell DVDs of my TV interviews. And for 8 years, I was on National Public Radio on a talk show called Florida Forum, also interviewing celebrities. So I sell DVDs of my TV interviews, CDs of my radio interviews on eBay. I want to share all this.
Okay, I want to help you. So let's see. So Arlene Herson, Herson, and if someone wanted to be able to buy those, if they went to arleneherson.com, would they be able to see what you have for sale?
If they go to arleneherson.com and go into my photo gallery,
okay.
Each one of the people that I've interviewed on television has a link to my eBay store. However, radio, I don't have pictures. So, therefore, for the CDs for the radio show, if they go to my eBay store, which they can be connected to from my website, arleneherson.com.
Perfect.
And,
perfect. It's a great thing. And so here you are now down in Florida.
Yeah.
And you live here full time?
I do.
And so tell us what you're cooking up here, because you cannot just not hook up something, Arlene. You're at your prime. I always say that now because, and I feel that way, but I know that a lot of men and women, now when they're in their 70s, often they decide, 60s, 70s, even 80s, they decide that they have the time now and they want to really fulfill what they've always wanted to do. So can you give us a little hint of what we should be looking forward with you?
Well, let me tell you, I'm never stopping. It's not a question of what I want to do now that I haven't done, because I've always done and I'm still doing. First of all, what I do here and interested in doing here is I do public speaking. I will talk to various groups, to gated communities. I have a video presentation. I show video clips of famous people telling you meaningful, inspirational things about your lives, and I talk behind the scenes. I have some amazing stories. Can I tell you one story?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm going to ask your audience if anybody knows how Tony Bennett decided to be a singer. And I bet you everybody's going to say no, including you, correct?
Yes, I was going to say no.
Okay, so on my radio show, on my television show, I interviewed him twice, once in his apartment in New York and once in Atlantic City. So Tony Bennett, and this is him saying it on television. It's not print. It's not me repeating what he says. He says this. He was in the Army. He was 18 years old. He loved to sing. He's in the Army. He used to sing in the barracks. And his sergeant invited him to a dinner. So Tony Bennett said, great. And his sergeant said, bring a date. Well, Tony Bennett didn't have a date. So he brought his best friend. His best friend was black.
I love this.
He says, in his words, his sergeant was a bigot. He was so furious. The only black person in the whole room was at his table. The next day, he demoted Tony Bennett to private.
You could do that.
He could. And he put him in graves registration, registering the dead bodies who were coming in. Now, everybody knew that this was happening. So a doctor came to him and said, look, we know how unfair it is. Now, Tony Bennett used to sing in the barracks. He's 18 years old. He just loved to sing. And the doctor said to him, you know, I can get you out of this detail and get you a job singing with the Army band. And Tony Bennett said, that's when I decided to be a singer.
Now, you see, look at that, taking something that was so horrible and turning it into magic. And so that must have really been exciting for you to hear something like that.
Well, but I have all of these stories. I have so many stories, which is why I want to share it. I want to share it on eBay. I want to share it in public speaking. I want to share it on TV in New York City. It's important to know that these are real people. And I have so many stories that are so important.
And it's interesting, as you're talking, I'm thinking about what will happen 20 years from now when people don't even know a Tony Bennett Elvis Presley probably he'll last for a while, but a lot of very important people, like even Sammy Davis Jr. Now, Frank Sinatra, I think he's going to stay too. But a lot of these people will just be gone in the past. It's not like Beethoven and, really. It's,
right. Well, then I'll be doing something else.
Okay.
And I'm doing something else now, which actually I find interesting. Because it's always, every time I moved, I did something different, and now I'm doing a new different thing. I'm on the board of the Boca Raton Historical Society.
Okay.
And somebody gave them a grant to document the Jewish history of Boca Raton. Now, years ago, Jews were not welcome in Boca Raton. We have newspaper articles, actually newspaper ads, that I actually have the ads where in the 30s, 40s, even in the 50s, they ran ads in the real estate section say, come to Boca Raton, beautiful beaches, beautiful sun, you'll love it here, and then in big letters, restricted. So this wasn't that long ago. Now, of course, look at Boca Raton with the gated communities. It's changed so much. So let's talk about how many of the people came here years ago. I am meeting the most fascinating people. I just interviewed a woman who's 100 years old. Her name is Ida Hurst. And she was the first woman Jewish president at Temple Beth-El. She has amazing stories. 100 years old, bright as can be, sharp as can be. The only thing she can't do now is she can't drive. So someone has to drive her at 100 years old. So what I'm doing is interviewing people who came here years ago, learning about them, not just what happened being a Jew coming here, but that's really the focus of it. Why did Jewish people come here years ago? Even in the 70s, it still wasn't so, well received. Why did they come here? I'm using the television studios at Lynn University. They have the state-of-the-art TV studio. They built a set for me. I've got 3 cameras. We've got students. We've got a director. Lynn University has been amazing. And now I'm learning all new things. I just want to make a point because of all the things that I've done, writing a column, being on television, being on radio, now doing this, I learn something new all the time. And that's what keeps me young.
I'm glad you said that, but I will tell you a story that you have no reason to know now that you've told me about being Jewish in Boca Raton. I was selling real estate for Arvida and was actually asked to take a lot of the very important people that the Arvida heads brought in, one of whom was and I'll just mention this, was the head of Equitable at the time when Equitable it's now called something else. And he was chairman of the board, and I was taking him and the president of Equitable around, showing them places. And I found a great place, and I was aware that there were certain buildings and this was 1979, and I was aware of certain buildings in Boca Raton on the ocean that really didn't particularly want people of the Jewish faith. And so I had to put up with that. But there were a few places that I knew there were Jewish people, and he found a place he really liked next to the hotel. And we went ahead and he purchased the property, but he and his wife were going to Europe before he could get approved by the board. And I said, of course, there's no problem, because the president of the Boca Raton Hotel was one of the references, and then, the president of Arvida, no problem. So that was fine. They came back because we were going to close, and they had to meet with the board. And when I had become friendly with them, and when the wife of the gentleman came out, she said to me, I think we're going to have a problem. I said, why do you say that? She said, I just had a feeling. Really? That's not possible. Don't worry about it. Well, I got a letter from the chairman of the condominium association, and said that we're sorry that the board did not approve him. Well, after I fell off the floor, I then got to work. I called the president of Arvida, the chairman of the board of Arvida, Chuck Cobb, all the way down in Miami, and we went to work on this, and I said, I have to call him, and I don't know what to do. He said, look, you go ahead and do whatever it takes. Well, when I called the chairman of, and I'm not going to use the names, the chairman of the Equitable in New York, he was very upset, and he was going to talk to his lawyer. But after a day or so, they decided if they weren't wanted, they weren't going to come down and never come back to Boca. Well, I was so furious and so hurt, and this is a very big one. So you talk about I understand what you're saying. So I spoke to someone who lived there, and I told him what happened. He said, well, the problem is they have a 10% quota. And that was in 1979 at a very upscale place, and who would be better than the chairman of the board of Equitable?
Well, but you're even saying a 10% quota. They really say that. So that's one of the reasons that we're doing this.
I understand that, but I wanted you to know this.
Right.
And you may want this little story in your...
Right. Well, I actually, I have some amazing stories of people who have changed. I mean, Boca Raton has changed so much, and a lot of it has really changed because of these gated communities and people who have come in to live a lifestyle that they couldn't live anyplace else except Boca Raton. But it's important to share this, and it's important to see how it's changed.
So that's what you're doing now. Well, I applaud you, Arlene. It is a beautiful thing to happen. And, and I have to say, and I know this is a little personal, but I think we have to discuss it because as a gerontologist, I always like people to understand who's listening that you have had a long marriage and you've been a wonderful wife, and you had a husband who passed away a few years ago.
Right.
And so there are many widows out there. And what we have to say to them is life maybe is different, but you have to figure out who you are and what you're going to do. You would like to talk about that.
Well, it's very true. I was married for 48 years. I don't know how that could happen because I'm not that old, my children. But I was married for 48 years. And my husband, Milton, unfortunately, was very ill for several years. It was not cancer. He had various heart-related problems. And he was sick for a long time. I think that there's a time. He wanted to die. So I think that there's a time. I really believe, I don't know other people's beliefs, but I really believe we go on to something. This is not the end. It doesn't make sense to me. When your body leaves you and you have no quality of life, you're better off in this other place where I believe we go. But being a widow now, after being married 48 years, which is a long time, I normally say I was married 110 years, but it was only 48. For me, life is different now. I have a different chapter, looking forward to it. But I was more fortunate, I think, than some women in that I always worked. My husband never got involved in my business, but he never stopped me. He was proud of me. He supported me, but I did my thing. When I came down to Florida for 8 years, I was on National Public Radio. I was on the radio. And in addition to interviewing celebrities I interviewed years ago, like Johnny Mathis and Phyllis Diller and Vic Damone and hundreds of others I interviewed again on the radio. But I went to openings. I went to all of these, wonderful events because I could talk about them as you could on the radio. And he wasn't as social as I was. So he would say sometimes, why don't you go without me? Bring a friend. And I did. So I was used to doing things myself. I always took care of the checkbook. I always was a businesswoman. So when I was out there on my own, I was used to being on my own. It wasn't just, all of a sudden I was left without a husband taking care of everything. I think it's very important out there to do something for yourself. We have no choice. When our spouse leaves us, whether it's a husband or a wife, life must go on. We grieve, we miss them, but you must have a quality of life for yourself and find something to do and get out of the house. You never know what's there. Who would have thought I would have had a television show if I didn't go to this cocktail party? Get up, get dressed, and get out, and you'll have a good time.
And even now, with your new, the exposure to Lynn University and what you're going to do there, and with the Boca Historical Society, this is brilliant. So this is going to set you into a whole new path. And I must tell people, and you will see a picture of Arlene when we put this on YouTube, but she's very beautiful. She has this great aura about her. And, of course, the men they are not leaving her alone, which is great. So that's up to her how she wants to handle that. But there really, I think you said a lot of things that were wise, but there really is life after
Absolutely.
death.
And don't say the men aren't leaving me alone, because now I'm single. And I'm having a good time.
I know you are.
And so, there is life out there, and there is a good thing out there. And
Arlene hasn't talked about her wonderful family, that she has children and she has grandchildren. So it is a great life. But, you certainly have made this happen. That you said that very well, that you have always worked, you've done things you've loved, but you have a very good outlook, and so you will love the things you do. You'll see the positive side of things, Arlene.
But every place I've moved, I've done something different. So keep yourself open for opportunity. When I lived in Washington, D.C., I wound up producing theater at Constitution Hall, which seats 4,000 people. Now, who's a producer? I was on the board of the Washington Symphony Orchestra, which was a volunteer orchestra, not the national orchestra, but a wonderful, wonderful orchestra. And they did performances at Constitution Hall. So I was on the board, and I would bring people in to perform with them. I brought Robert Merrill to sing with them, and they asked me to help. And then at one point, I was bringing in that they'd asked me different things, but I had brought in Victor Borge to do. He said to me, I can't do my regular show, but I love opera, and I can do an opera.
Oh, wow.
Can you do an opera? I said, yes. I said, I didn't know if we could do an opera, but he loved the magic flute. He took a 3-hour magic flute and cut it down himself to an hour and a half. I just brought him in. We had a producer. Long story, didn't get along with the producer, couldn't, and his manager said, if you don't come in, Victor Borge is going out. So now I become a producer.
I love the story.
It was so fabulous. I was joined with Victor Borge at the hip for more than 6 weeks. Every time Victor Borge was invited someplace, he'd say, I have to bring my producer. So I got to all the embassies and all the places. And then they said to me, okay, we'd like to do the musical 1776. And we would like, do you think maybe you could get us some members of Congress to do this? Well, we did the full production of 1776. I had 10 members of Congress, in addition to a professional cast. I think our show was just as good as the one on Broadway. I had Senator Fred Thompson play John Hancock. Now, he's been on television and radio and movies, but he had never done live theater. So he gave me credit. I have this wonderful poster at home where he writes, thank you for giving me my first theatrical experience. And I had members of Congress, Republicans and Democrats, who never spoke to each other, across the aisle, who became best friends. I wound up producing theater, and these members of Congress had to answer to me. So
it's, when you look back on all this,
who would have thought?
Well, it's because there is a certain humbleness that you have, even though you know who you are, and you've done some exciting things, but you still don't make people feel like you're this prima donna, which is very important, not to do that.
But I'm not.
No, I understand.
I'm lucky. I'm happy. I'm not now doing something else new.
Yes.
I'm now a Master of Ceremonies for an entertainment series called Showtime. We will be starting doing shows there January, February, March. No, it will be at the Countess de Hornley Theater at Spanish River High School. I have a wonderful series coming up starting in January at Spanish River High School. We have Hal Linden coming. I have Clint Holmes coming. I have Tony Orlando coming. It's going to be fabulous. But I'm the Master of Ceremonies.
Absolutely.
Quite frankly,
fabulous.
I love being on stage and introducing the acts and getting to know the people. And who knows tomorrow what new thing will be
so
here.
Nice, Arlene. I'm so glad you took the time to come this morning, and I guess it's about time that we're going to have to say goodbye. You're going to be hearing a lot more about her, and thanks for coming.
I am delighted to be here. Thanks, Anita.